Is it just me, or is it becoming clearer every day that sometimes the main people smiling in your face are the ones plotting to try and take your place? The word is so right when it describes jealousy as cruel and labels covetousness as an evil that defiles the person, and the case against Karmelo Anthony just exposed that vileness in technicolor. The Karmelo Anthony trial has revealed that this young man has been placed on trial after defending himself against a group of 4 students at a student event. They repeatedly yelled at him, approached him aggressively, surrounded him while he was sitting with someone he thought was a friend. And according to witnesses, the main aggressor in the situation, who was 5 inches taller and had 80 pounds on Karmelo, after already putting hands on Karmelo once and being warned not to do it again, then proceeded to push the 17-year-old Karmelo Anthony with enough force to remove him from his seat, at which point Karmelo retrieved his folding multi-tool from his backpack and tried to defend himself before anybody else could try putting hands on him. He swung out once and ran. Unfortunately for all involved, that one swing with 3.5-inch folding multi-tool resulted in one of the aggressors no longer being here. But instead of this being viewed as the accidental result of what can happen when a group of people menace and put hands on another person until real fear takes over and they feel they have no other choice but to defend themselves, the state of Texas and others had decided to mischaracterize this as a deliberate act of ending someone else. Never mind that a friend called Karmelo over to the tent to get out from under the rain. Never mind that Karmelo and others in the tent were joking, laughing, and having a good time until one person, who according to testimony had been suspended from school that week and whose own coach was surprised to see him there because of that suspension, that one person decided to exert his non-existent authority to intimidate Karmelo into leaving. Never mind that contrary to the people spreading false information, Karmelo not only was not breaking any school policies by being under that tent, he was also not breaking any laws by having what court experts have described as a folding pocket multi-tool in a state where civilians are allowed to walk around visibly strapped with blickies without a license. Never mind that after letting a person who was, according to witness testimony, visibly much larger than Karmelo, put hands on Karmelo twice before Karmelo even defended himself, after which he immediately ran to a coach to get help. Some people still want to spread the untruth that Karmelo intentionally provoked the situation because he stood up to someone larger than him, who, after being unable to intimidate Karmelo into submitting to his non-existent authority, decided to escalate the situation by putting hands on Karmelo twice. People want to accuse others of making the situation about skin, when the uncomfortable truth that they are unwilling to face is that according to Texas self-defense statutes, the aggressor who starts the altercation loses the protection of the laws, and the one who is defending himself is not required to wait until he's too injured before reciprocating. The unpalatable truth is that this wouldn't even be a case if not for skin. Because the prosecutor, while admitting that Karmelo did not start the physical altercation, has resorted to saying that because Karmelo did not submit to a much larger boy's non-existent authority, because Karmelo stood up for his own rights against a group of peers who decided to be part of the problem, and further told the aggressor not to touch him, the prosecutor has tried to plant the idea that standing up for himself, even while he was still sitting down and surrounded by people towering over him, is just something that Karmelo, for some mystical reason, apparently just did not have the right to do. Something that the prosecution witnesses reiterated over and over again by admitting that while Karmelo was not the first one to get physical, that even while he remained seated while the much larger boy towered over him with his twin brother and other friends, while yelling at Karmelo and saying they would beat Karmelo's A, every one of those witnesses, after admitting that, still said that Karmelo provoked the aggression that had already started by him telling them not to touch him while holding his hand inside his backpack. Because Karmelo tried to de-escalate the situation by trying to get the larger boy to think twice about putting hands on him, they choose to try to rewrite the definition of provoke and undermine a statute so that they can punish the only person who tried to de-escalate a situation that no adults intervened in and where no other students took a stand for what was right. The prosecution even put a witness on stand who testified that he had no idea why Karmelo was under their tent. The witness also denied even knowing Karmelo, leaving the defense to present evidence that showed not only did this witness know Karmelo, but they were friends, showing photos of them hanging out together often, texting each other frequently. The police report even showed other students saying that this witness was friends with Karmelo. And others testified that the witness actually was the one who called Karmelo over to get out of the rain and sit under the tent with them. It was even revealed that when the aggressor began to yell and put hands on Karmelo, instead of trying to calm the situation and get his teammates to stop the aggressive behavior towards his friend, the witness began recording the incident with his phone, only to later say that he was only pretending to record when asked to give police the video evidence that would clearly show that Karmelo was acting in self-defense. The entire testimony seemed to indicate that Karmelo was lured to the tent by someone he thought was a friend, only to be surrounded by football players who were yelling at him, and then to have another of those players who was 5 inches taller and 80 pounds heavier put hands on him, while the person he thought was his friend recorded it. The prosecution was willing to put an apparent Judas and other students who contradicted themselves on the stand by describing the situation exactly as it happened, saying how several football players, students much bigger than Karmelo, tried to intimidate him, leading to one of them putting hands on Karmelo twice, only for those same students to then say that even though Karmelo did not start the altercation, he was still considered the one who provoked it, just because he stood up for himself. Something that just about every parent tells their child to do when faced with people who try to intimidate them. But you know who the prosecution failed to put on the stand? The twin brother of the aggressor, who not only did several interviews before the case, saying that his brother was not the aggressor, directly contradicting what the prosecution's own witnesses and video evidence show, but according to testimony, was someone who had also been suspended with his brother that same week. Their own coach even testified that he was surprised to see the twins at the game because after being suspended from school, apparently the twins were both somewhere they weren't supposed to be. The prosecution also did his best to exclude evidence that showed why the boys had been suspended and other incidents that occurred at their school with other students that could possibly show the jury that Karmelo had even more of a reason to be afraid of what the boys could do in that situation. In addition to the very reasonable fear Karmelo was experiencing at being towered over by boys who were visibly larger than him while they were aggressively yelling at him, and one even having the audacity to put hands on him without anyone ever intervening. The prosecution even made sure to have melanated jurors removed so that Karmelo is in no way facing a jury of his peers. They have banned cameras and even some independent media from the courtroom to try to stop the truth from being heard. And some have even resorted to the usual tactics of staring down people while being visibly strapped and trying to instigate a situation only to cry wolf tears when the bait is ignored, just to try to intimidate melanated content creators who are covering the trial, leading to our own Panthers stepping up and standing in the gap. But regardless of the same old tricks, the truth will not be denied, and the truth will make Karmelo free. Let me know what you all think in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.